Hi. Today, I know it's been a while since I've been on. I've been really busy with my evolved painting, my oil painting, and I want to catch you up to kind of what I've been doing. So, I need to get my glasses. Sorry, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm starting to work on block 5, or it's block 1, part 5, but I'm going to show you what we've done so far. I want to encourage you that as you take this course, that you follow along what Kevin teaches you as best you can exactly. Don't try and show off or get your ego involved. Just do what he says, because you're building skills, you're building brain patterns, you're building muscle memory, and it will serve you better as you get along. And I'm finding that in my 5th painting. So the first one that I did was just learning to use the brush, learning how the paint went on, learning how to keep in the boxes. We just did a set of 12 boxes, and we did extreme shadow, moderate light, extreme light. And the goal was to not have any white spaces, any of the white canvas showing through the paint, which I did a pretty good job. When my critique came back, I did a pretty good job with that. I also did a pretty good job with keeping my edges pretty straight. There's a few places where it came out, but they don't worry about that, just as long as you're doing your best. But the one thing that I had a problem with was I would get a ridge of paint at certain places, and you really can't see it too much with this camera. But when I take nice pictures to send them, you can see I have ridges of paint that build up, and I used too much paint. So that was the first thing that I had to learn. And you can see I keep these taped on my wall to kind of show my progress. The second painting that we did was where we did gradients, which meant that we took a dark shadow, and I believe this is moderate light, and then we mixed the two to make buffers, well, actually the buffer came in with a different piece of paint, but then we learned how to smush our edges together. And you can see I did pretty good with my first one. I do have some places where it's too dark. It needed to be melted into each other like this. You can see a line up and down here, and this was a really hard exercise for me, and some of it I think is with my stroke I don't have a lot of control, but I'm finding that as I paint, I'm getting more and more control with my hand. I'm getting finer motor skill control. And so if that's the greatest thing I get from this class, I'm really tickled, because it was hard on me to have problems with motor control. I'm really liking how they go step by step and they progress you. Now, this is my second painting, but I did a third one, and it's out in my lanai drying a little bit right now. I have 2 other paintings out there that I haven't brought back to my craft studio because they stink. I put clove oil in them, just like they suggest, to keep the oil, because I don't paint 4, 5, 6 hours a day. I just can't. I get tired, I get worn out, and so I do break it up quite a bit. But I have another one just like this, only it's a little better. Because you practice your gradients, and they become much nicer with time. My next painting is still out in the lanai, my patio, drying, but I'm going to show you the process that I took to get to where I am with number 5. So those ones, previous ones were 3. This is number 4. And let me pull this up a little bit so we can see all of it. This is the picture that we use as a reference. And what I did before I watched the videos is I went and I just observed this picture and kind of decided where the dark shadows, where the lighter shadows, where the extreme light and the moderate light was. And then I watched, basically what I do is I watch the videos through, and then sometimes I will go back and I will pick certain videos that I feel like I need to watch again. So after I had watched Kevin break them up, I went in and I went ahead and I broke everything up. Now we're just dealing with shadows and light. And so first of all, I marked everything from the photo that I thought was a shadow. Just put an S down. I didn't mark it extreme or moderate light or shadow. I just marked my shadows first. Anything that looked like a shadow, which was this, 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 and this. And this is a shadow. So I marked those as shadows. And then I went back and, like he says, I found the very darkest shadow, which was this. And so I marked that an extreme shadow, and this is an extreme shadow. So I marked those extreme shadows. And then I went and I squinted my eyes. I think it's Piper Talladega that says to squint your eyes. And so I squinted my eyes to kind of determine where this fell, if this was an extreme shadow or if it was the next one. Now this I could tell was a moderate shadow right away. And so then you go through and you mark every shadow, whether it's extreme or moderate. Now the one thing, this at the table's edge, it fell in between the extreme shadow and the moderate shadow. So I wrote down I had 6 shadows total. I had 4 that I determined were extreme shadows. And I decided that this was a moderate shadow, and since I had 4 extremes, I was going to go ahead. Now you could mark this extreme shadow if you wanted to, according to Kevin. But because I had the 4 extremes already, I decided to mark this as a moderate shadow. And he says, this is your choice. And so then I kind of had my painting balanced. I can't show you my painting because, like I said, it's out in the patio drying. That's where I paint, because I have windows on a whole wall of window, and then I have a sliding glass door that's a window. So I get a lot of light out there. I get really nice light to paint. We didn't do a buffer and then gradient this. We did just make it solid, which that was nice. But I feel like when I did my painting, I enjoyed this a lot, except I'm still having trouble getting the ridges broken down so that they don't, because they cast light differently when you take a picture, and they look like you have white spots. I didn't have white spots because I have enlarging glasses that I've used. So this has really worked out really well. I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to show you my next painting that I'm getting ready to work on and how I worked through it. Okay, so this is the second painting. Hang on just a minute. Okay, like I was saying, this is the second, or it's actually the fourth, the fifth one I'm getting ready to do. It's the second real painting. This was considered our first painting. But with this one, before I even watched Kevin's videos, I went ahead and made a copy of this. And then I went through and labeled things like we did in the first one, but I did it by myself, and I did it in pencil. And then I watched the video to see if I was right, and the only thing that I did was this one, the gray on the ball, I put as a moderate light. And Kevin tells us not to look at the darkness or lightness, but to evaluate according to the value. And so since we had done the shadows, then we were doing lights. And these were the only two lights, the round part of the ball and the table. And in comparison, this is the lighter light. And so this became our extreme light. Now when we paint it, it's going to be with the very light, almost this shade. And it's not going to be exact, but what he's trying to teach us right now is how to evaluate for value shadows and light. And that's what we do. We don't look at it in comparison. We just evaluate shadows to shadows and then forget about those, and then evaluate lights to lights, and then we label them. So this is the next one that I'm getting to do, and this one we are going to do the gradient. We're going to do the gradient here, and then we're going to do the gradient here to make the ball look round. And you can see in this picture there are no gradients. This was just painting, and it was the first lesson in determining shadow versus light. And the easiest way for me to determine shadow versus light is to see which way the light is coming, and then you know that if something's in the way of that light, it becomes a shadow. And so that's kind of how I looked at the ball also. You can see the light is coming from this direction. And he said to ignore this for now. We're not going to worry about highlights, but we are going to go ahead and do gradients. I'm really enjoying this class. I know that some people feel like it's very slow, and maybe because I'm a library media specialist, I'm very detail-oriented, very data-driven, and so this really speaks to me. I am enjoying this tremendously. If you're interested, go to evolve.com. It's a great art course. I would suggest it for anyone who wants to learn how to do oils. They're harder than I thought. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you again. I'll keep you updated. I'll try not to go so long next time, but enjoy. Try your oils. Bye-bye.